I invite us to recall, especially if you were at the players' performances last month, towards the end of the first act of Fiddler on the Roof, when the constable comes up to Tevye and says, there's been some orders from on high to do a little demonstration to put the Jews in their place. And the constable says, I really like you Jews. I like you, Tevye. But we have to show that we're following orders. But we'll go light on you. And then the act unfortunately ends with the wedding being disrupted by the pogrom. No one was hurt, at least physically, but there was a lot of emotional pain watching the wedding scene being disrupted. And you can imagine being a Jewish actor having to reenact that kind of scene. There is no such thing as light violence, just showing a little bit of following orders. We know what happened decades later after the supposed happening of Fiddler on the Roof, the Shoah. And our research upon the Shoah, how did this happen, was that too many people just followed orders. They did not question what was in front of them. And if only a few more people had questioned, maybe they wouldn't have stopped the entire Shoah, but a few more lives would have been saved. Thankfully, in 2023, United States of America, there are more and more of these local officials speaking up and being there for us, the Jewish people, and really for any minority that needs protection. You might have seen recently, driving around Great Neck, a little parade of 5 Nassau County police cars, wondering what's this about, what's going on. Did a little research. It's called Operation Overlook. And it's really just showing all of us, hopefully the perpetrators too, that the police are there to protect. They are watching. They have our backs. And even in places that there's not a large Jewish population, the officials have our backs. Daytona Speedway is in a little county called Volusia County on the Atlantic coast in Florida. I don't know if there are any Jews living in the Daytona area. I'm sure there may be a few. But at the Daytona 500, there were anti-Semites giving out flyers promoting anti-Semitism. And the sheriff, Mike Chitwood, he spoke up and stopped them. Unfortunately, he then became subject to cyberbullying and cyber threats, getting the FBI involved. The FBI found the people giving the threats and arrested them. And upon those arrests, Chitwood spoke up and said, these scumbags came to the wrong county. We have unity in this county, he said. We stand beside one another. We stand beside our Jewish neighbors. We are not going to tolerate this. This is not about free speech. This is about violence. Kol hakavod to Sheriff Chitwood for speaking up, for being there against hatred, for being for his Jewish neighbors, whether they're in his county or not. We need more and more of this. It is awesome. Yet, it also feels like the sheriff and others are playing whack-a-mole with anti-Semites. Push one down, another one comes up. If we are going to get rid of anti-Semitism once and for all, it requires each and every one of us to be there and to stand up. We need grassroots. Today, April 29th, has been declared by some of these grassroots organizations End Jewish Hate Day. It is a day to promote that we can all be part of combating anti-Semitism, not just law enforcement and organizations. We must take a part and any step is valuable. Think about Fiddler on the Roof. If the constable had just prevented a pogrom in Anatevka, there'd be one less act of violence. So what can we do as individuals? What can we do to be ambassadors to the Jewish people? Well, think about what we did around 9/11 afterwards. Whenever we saw law enforcement officials, we would say, thank you for your service. Thank you for your support. There's no reason why we need to stop. We can certainly, anytime we see any official, thank them for supporting the Jewish people, thank them for fighting hatred. And we can build bridges of friendship with our non-Jewish friends and acquaintances at work and school and beyond. Just making sure that they understand that we are Americans, we are Jews, we are pursuers of peace. There is no need to discriminate or to hate. Atrocities like the Holocaust, the hatred of anti-Semitism comes about when we dehumanize each other because of superficial differences. We need to all teach each other that we are made in God's image. The second Torah portion of this week, Kedoshim, really teaches us that we have to humanize one another. We have to love one another as we love ourselves. We can't hate them in our heart. We have to honor them, put no stumbling blocks, give out to the needy, stand up to our elderly who are wiser than we. But it's an interesting juxtaposition to the first parsha, Ahare, and really to all of Leviticus so far. It seemed that holiness was all about the ritual piety of the incense, of the sacrifices, perhaps unfortunately touching the ark and then getting zapped. That seemed like to be holiness, the holiness of God. How do we holy? By treating people nicely. Well, the word is kavod. In modern Hebrew, kavod means honor, but in biblical Hebrew, it means presence. We say kavod Adonai pod. The presence of God is here. The reason why we need to do all of those ritual piety is because God is present. We see God or feel God in the cloud, in the holy of holies between the cherubim. Well, when we're standing before people, we're standing before kavod Adonai, the presence of God. And so instead of offering incense, we need to offer kindness in order to be holy. It's about presence. And the way that we acknowledge someone's presence is we give them honor and we give them respect. No stumbling blocks before people, and making sure that we do not hate one another. If we do this, if we are ambassadors of the Jewish people, ambassadors against hatred, then really rising tides of holiness will rise all boats, really all lives. It's wonderful, as we heard on Monday night with Ted Deutsch, the new head of the American Jewish Committee, and of course with the ADL, all of the work that they do to fight hatred. But really, as they invite us to do as well, we all must take part if we are going to achieve the goal of eradicating anti-Semitism and hatred from our world. So I really invite all of us, or I could say nominate all of us, to be ambassadors for the Jewish people. Shabbat Shalom.